In April 1912, over 2,200 people boarded the largest moving object ever built, enclosed in a floating palace of unprecedented luxury, surrounded by crystal, mahogany, and silver. For the wealthiest passengers, life aboard Titanic was a dazzling display of Edwardian opulence, all while steaming toward an unimaginable fate. Here's what life was really like as a first-class passenger on the Titanic. So yeah, if these help you fall asleep, subscribe. Also, what time is it for you right now? Someone from London told me they listen at 3 a.m. Meanwhile, someone in Seattle uses these on their drive to work, which feels risky, but whatever works. We're heading to the Titanic in a minute. First though, get comfortable. Seriously, take a second. Adjust whatever needs adjusting. You're not going to want to move once we start. Your eyes open to the soft morning light streaming through the tall windows of your London hotel room. It's April 10th, 1912, and today is no ordinary day. Your hands press against the crisp Egyptian cotton sheets one last time before you swing your legs over the side of the bed. The plush carpet feels warm against your bare feet, a stark contrast to what awaits you on the Atlantic Ocean. 7 o'clock, madam, comes a voice with a gentle knock. Your lady's maid enters with a tray of tea and toast. We should begin preparations if you're to make the boat train on time. You've been anticipating this day for months. The maiden voyage of the RMS Titanic, the newest, largest, and most luxurious ocean liner ever built, and you have a first-class ticket. Is everything packed, you ask, sipping the perfectly brewed Earl Grey. Nearly all, madam. Just your morning things remain, she replies, already laying out your travelling suit, a tailored wool affair in navy blue with a matching hat. Packing for an ocean crossing isn't simple. You need outfits for every possible occasion. Morning walks on the deck, afternoon teas, formal dinners. God forbid you'd be caught wearing the same evening gown twice. Think about it. Your comfortable bed at home has been replaced by 4 steamer trunks full of clothes. 4, and that's not even counting the hat boxes. The clothing requirements for first-class passage are practically a mathematical equation. For women, at least 1 tailor-made suit, 1 pair of thick silk or woolen tights, 4 sets of combination undergarments, several shirtwaists, a sweater, a woolen wrap for trips to the bath, a dressy bodice for dinner, proper shoes, and 3 pairs of pyjamas. And men don't get off any easier. They need to pack a black dinner coat, shirts for evening attire, a regular suit, woolen underclothing, handkerchiefs, socks, pyjamas, a bathrobe, slippers, and, here's the kicker, a mix of ties and detachable starched shirt collars. I mean, imagine having to pack different shirt collars. That's how you know you're in 1912. Wait till you see what people wear to dinner. Hold up, I'm getting ahead of myself. Breakfast finished, your maid helps you dress. First the chemise and drawers, then the corset pulled tight but not too tight for travelling, petticoats, and finally the wool travelling suit. Your hair is pinned up meticulously beneath your hat. A touch of powder, a dab of perfume, and you're ready. Downstairs, the hotel staff has arranged for your mountain of luggage to be loaded onto an automobile. You can't help but wonder if you've overpacked, but the thought quickly vanishes. Better to have too much than too little when sailing with the elite of society. The White Star dock at Southampton, please, you tell the driver. The excitement in the air is palpable as you arrive at Waterloo Station. The special boat train, nicknamed the Titanic Special, awaits to carry passengers directly to the Southampton docks. The platform buzzes with activity, porters rushing with luggage, families saying tearful goodbyes, journalists scribbling notes. "Did you see the passenger list in the paper?" your friend whispers as you settle into the plush first-class compartment. "The Astors are sailing, and the Guggenheims." You nod knowingly. This maiden voyage has attracted the wealthiest and most prominent figures in society. The prospect of rubbing shoulders with such illustrious company over the coming days sends a little thrill down your spine. Look at everyone checking their pocket watches, you observe. The gentleman across from you has glanced at his timepiece 3 times in the last 5 minutes. Everyone's anticipation is reaching a fever pitch. The train journey from London to Southampton takes about an hour and a half, but it feels like days. You try to focus on your book, but your mind keeps wandering to thoughts of the ship. You've seen the advertisements in the papers. The Queen of the Ocean, they're calling her. Practically unsinkable. Your friends who travelled on Olympic, Titanic's slightly older sister ship, have raved about the luxurious staterooms, the state-of-the-art amenities, the sumptuous dining, and Titanic is supposed to be even more magnificent. And then, as the train nears Southampton, someone across the aisle gasps loudly. There she is. Everyone rushes to the windows. In the distance, you can make out 4 massive funnels rising against the sky. As the train pulls closer, the full scale of the vessel becomes apparent, and your breath catches in your throat. "Good Lord," mutters the gentleman beside you. "She's massive." That's putting it mildly. Titanic is absolutely enormous. 882 feet of gleaming black hull towering above the dock, her white superstructure crowned with those distinctive buff-coloured funnels with black tops. She makes every other ship in the harbour look like a child's toy. The train finally stops at the dockside station and you descend into a flurry of activity. Porters swarm the train, collecting luggage. Photographers snap pictures. Vendors sell souvenirs and newspapers. The air smells of coal smoke, salt water, and excitement. "You know they're saying she cost $7.5 million to build," says your friend as your luggage is loaded onto a cart. "Can you imagine?" That's equivalent to about $210 million today. But honestly, looking up at this floating palace, it seems like a bargain. The White Star Line has arranged everything with military precision. Your steamer trunks are sorted into 2 categories, those wanted for the voyage, which will go straight to your stateroom, and those not wanted, which will be stored in the ship's hold until New York. You notice little numbered stickers on all your cases, marked with your name and cabin number. And speaking of cabins, unlike the 2nd and 3rd class passengers who boarded earlier and had to endure lengthy inspection queues, you breeze through a quick ticket check and customs formality. A White Star Line official escorts you toward the 1st class gangway. "Your stateroom is on B deck, madam," he says with a slight bow. "One of our finest." The gangway to the 1st class entrance is unlike the crowded ramps used by lesser passengers. It's a separate elevated walkway that leads directly to B deck. As you approach, you take one final look at the towering hull from the outside. The ship is so tall that you have to crane your neck to see the boat deck far above. You can't help but feel a mixture of excitement and the slightest touch of unease at the sheer scale of it all. "It's like walking into a building, not boarding a ship," your friend whispers. You take a deep breath and step across the threshold. The transformation is immediate and dramatic. One moment you're on an industrial dockside, the next you're in what appears to be the corridor of an elegant English country estate or luxury hotel. The ship gently sways beneath your feet, the only reminder that you're on a vessel at all. Your eyes dart from detail to detail, struggling to take it all in. Rich oak panelling lines the walls, plush carpets muffle your footsteps, electric lights in ornate fixtures cast a warm glow over everything. Every surface gleams with polish and care. "Ma'am, if you'll follow me to the purser's office," says a steward in a crisp uniform, "you'll want to make your arrangements for the voyage." This, you quickly learn, is where the real business of first-class travel begins. The purser's office is the nerve centre of passenger services. Here, you can book your deck chair at an additional fee, reserve tables for dining, deposit valuables in the ship's safe, and handle any special requests. The line is considerable, a testament to the ship's full booking, and as you wait, you overhear a steward speaking in hushed but clearly flustered tones about a passenger complaint. Mrs. Shelley says her stateroom is little more than a cell, he whispers to another crew member, says it's bitterly cold and impossibly thin-walled, insists she must have been put into second class by mistake. The other steward rolls his eyes slightly. The White Star Line might have gone a bit overboard with their advertisements. Some of the first-class cabins are indeed small and quite bare. I'll speak to the purser. You make a mental note. Perhaps your B-deck stateroom was a wise choice after all. With your arrangements made and valuables safely deposited, another steward appears to escort you to your cabin. He leads you through a labyrinthine series of corridors. If not for the occasional gentle roll of the ship, you might think you were in an expensive hotel. Here we are, madam. Stateroom B64. The door swings open and you step into what will be your home for the next week. Unlike some of the more basic first-class accommodations, yours is truly luxurious, decorated in the Louis XV style with elegant white and gold mouldings. A comfortable bed with fine linens dominates one wall. There's a small sofa upholstered in silk damask, a writing desk, a marble-topped washstand, and ample closet space. You notice something unusual by the bed, an electric heater, such a modern convenience. You can't resist turning it on to take the slight chill from the air. Your luggage will arrive shortly, madam, the steward informs you. Would you like me to unpack for you, or will your maid be handling that? Before you can answer, there's a knock at the door. It's your friends from the train, their faces flushed with excitement. You must come up to the boat deck, they insist. They're about to cast off, and everyone's gathering to wave goodbye. You hadn't planned to leave your cabin until you'd freshened up, but the infectious enthusiasm is impossible to resist. Following your friends, you make your way through the ship and up the magnificent grand staircase. The staircase alone is worth the price of admission, a soaring multi-deck masterpiece crowned with a wrought iron and glass dome that floods the space with natural light. At the centre landing, an ornate clock is flanked by carved wooden figures representing honour and glory crowning time. It's so grand that several passengers have stopped to photograph it. Can you imagine coming down these stairs in your evening gown? Your friend whispers. After climbing several flights, you emerge onto the open air of the boat deck. The April breeze is cool but pleasant, carrying the scent of sea salt. The deck is crowded with passengers, some chatting excitedly, others waving to loved ones on the dock below. You find a spot at the rail and look down. The distance to the water is dizzying. From this height, the people on the dock look like tiny dolls. All around you, the atmosphere is festive. Children run between the adults' legs while their parents call after them. A woman nearby dabs at tears while simultaneously waving a handkerchief. A group of young men are taking swigs from a hidden flask, toasting the voyage. I heard they delayed the departure, someone near you says. Something about a near collision with another ship. Indeed, there seems to be some commotion in the harbour. A smaller vessel, the SS New York, appears to have broken its moorings and is drifting uncomfortably close to Titanic's massive hull. "Look at that," a gentleman exclaims. "The suction from our propellers must have pulled her loose." You watch as tugboats scramble to intercept the drifting ship. It's a tense few minutes, but disaster is averted as the New York is secured before a collision can occur. "Not the most auspicious start to our journey," your friend remarks with a nervous laugh, but the delay is brief. Soon the final preparations resume, and a deep, resonant blast from Titanic's whistle echoes across the harbour, 3 long notes announcing imminent departure. The sound is physically felt as much as heard, vibrating in your chest. Around you, passengers cheer and wave with renewed vigour. Then comes a subtle shift beneath your feet, so gentle you might have imagined it, if not for the gradual widening gap between ship and shore. Titanic is moving, almost imperceptibly at first, then with gathering momentum. On the dock, handkerchiefs wave like a field of white flowers. Some people are running alongside the ship for as long as they can, calling final goodbyes. Others simply stand and watch the magnificent vessel begin her maiden journey. As Southampton slowly recedes, you feel a strange mix of excitement and melancholy. The threshold between land and sea has been crossed. For the next week, this floating palace will be your entire world. "Shall we explore?" your friend suggests, eyes bright with anticipation. And so begins your first day aboard the ship of dreams, unaware of what fate awaits just 4 days hence. But for now, there's a sense of limitless possibility as Titanic steams majestically into the open waters, carrying you toward adventure. "I can't believe we're actually on the Titanic," your friend whispers, squeezing your arm. "Can you imagine the stories we'll tell when we reach New York?" Little do you know that the stories of this voyage will indeed be told, but not in the way anyone aboard could possibly imagine. The Titanic steams away from Southampton, and you're struck by how smoothly such an enormous vessel moves through the water. The gentle vibration beneath your feet is the only real indication you're at sea. Well, that and the endless blue stretching out on all sides. "Shall we see what other treasures this floating palace has to offer?" your friend suggests, looping her arm through yours. You nod eagerly and begin what will become a proper exploration. Walking away from the railing, you notice how spacious the boat deck feels. Nothing like the cramped steamers you've travelled on before. There's room to stroll, to breathe, to exist without constantly bumping elbows with strangers. An older gentleman tips his hat as he passes. "First crossing?" he asks. "On the Titanic, yes," you reply, "though I sailed on the Mauretania last summer," he chuckles. "You'll find this quite the upgrade, madam. I was on Olympic last year. Same design, but they've added some lovely touches to her sister here. The private promenade decks for the parlour suites are divine. Not that I could afford one, mind you." As he moves on, your friend whispers, "That was Sir Cosmo Duff Gordon. His wife is the famous fashion designer, Madame Lucille." Already you're brushing shoulders with the elite. This voyage promises to be as much about who you meet as where you're going. Descending the grand staircase, you pause on a deck where double doors open into the first-class lounge. You can't resist peeking inside. The room is spectacular, decorated in the Louis XV style with ornate white and gold panelling, deep carpets and delicate furniture arranged in intimate groupings. A magnificent fireplace, electric of course, no actual fires at sea, dominates one wall. Tall windows flood the space with natural light, while crystal chandeliers stand ready to illuminate evening gatherings. "This is where the ladies will retreat after dinner," explains a passing steward who notices your appreciative gaze, while the gentlemen enjoy the smoking room. "Separate spaces, you ask, slightly amused? Traditional shipboard etiquette, madam," he replies, with a practised smile. "Though nobody will stop you if you prefer to join the gentlemen. Times are changing, after all." Times are changing indeed, though not quickly enough for your taste. Still, you're not here to challenge social conventions, at least not on your first day. Moving on, you discover the reading and writing room, a serene space designed specifically for the ladies. Several women are already settled in comfortable chairs, penning letters or reading novels from the ship's library. Just think, your friend muses, in a few days we'll be sending wireless messages from the middle of the Atlantic. What would our grandmothers say? Mine would call it witchcraft, you laugh, then demand to send one herself. The Titanic's wireless room is buzzing with activity. At $1 per word, messages aren't cheap, but that hasn't deterred the wealthy passengers from sending announcements of their presence on this historic voyage. You continue your tour, wandering past the Café Parisien, a charming spot designed to give the feel of a Parisian sidewalk cafe, complete with wicker furniture and trellises. It's an innovative space for a ship, offering a more relaxed alternative to the formal dining saloon. We simply must take tea there tomorrow, your friend insists. As you wander, the ship's scale becomes more apparent. The corridors seem endless, each turning revealing another elegant passage or stairwell. It would be easy to get lost if not for the helpful crew members stationed throughout. "Excuse me, but is that the squash court I've heard about?" you ask one such steward, noticing a sign. "Yes, madam. Down on the lower deck, one of the only squash courts at sea. 2 shillings per game, rackets and balls provided. The physical instructor will even play as your opponent if needed. You make a mental note to perhaps try it later in the voyage. You've never played squash, but when else would you have the chance to do so in the middle of the ocean? Speaking of unique opportunities, you've heard whispers of the ship's swimming bath, another marvel of modern engineering, an actual swimming pool filled with heated salt water deep within the hull of the ship. Shall we see if we can find it, you suggest? Your exploration takes you deeper into the ship down to F-deck where the pool is located. Along the way you pass the gymnasium, which requires its own ticket, and peek through the windows. Inside are the most modern exercise machines, rowing devices, stationary bicycles, even electric horses and camels that simulate riding. "Look at that," your friend whispers, pointing at a woman in a divided skirt astride the electric camel. "Mrs. Astor, I believe." The famous Madeline Astor, whose husband John Jacob Astor is reportedly the richest man aboard, rides the mechanical beast with impressive poise. The gymnasium instructor, a fit young man in white flannels, stands nearby offering encouragement. "That camel looks ridiculous," a voice says behind you. You turn to see a young woman about your age, her expression amused. "I tried it yesterday on Olympic. Felt nothing like actual camel riding, believe me." "You've ridden real camels?" your friend asks, impressed. "In Egypt last winter. Far dustier affair, I assure you." She extends her hand. "Margaret Brown. Friends call me Maggie." You introduce yourselves, immediately charmed by this forthright woman with her American accent and confident manner. "Are you headed to the swimming bath?" she asks. "I was just going myself. First time at sea, they've managed to keep the water from sloshing out with the ship's movement. Some clever engineering trick." You accept her invitation, and the three of you continue down to F-deck, where the pool awaits. The bath is impressive, 30 feet long by 14 feet wide, filled with heated salt water. Several gentlemen are already enjoying a swim, while attendants stand by with fluffy towels. "Ladies' swimming hours begin at 2, an attendant informs you apologetically, but you're welcome to reserve a time. Next to the swimming bath is another of the ship's innovations, the Turkish baths. For an additional fee of $1, first-class gentlemen can enjoy the steam room, hot room, temperate room, and cooling room during the morning hours. Ladies are permitted between 2 and 5 in the afternoon. Worth every penny, Maggie Brown assures you. The cooling room is straight out of Arabian Nights, all blue tiles and teak furniture. Makes you forget you're on a ship entirely. Your new American friend proves to be a wealth of information, having travelled extensively on various ocean liners. As you make your way back up through the ship, she points out features you might have missed and shares gossip about some of the notable passengers. The Wideners are hosting a private dinner party the final night, she confides. Very exclusive. Invitations are the talk of first class. By now, your initial tour has brought you almost full circle back to the upper decks. Your stomach reminds you that breakfast was hours ago, and it's well past luncheon time. The Palm Court should be serving tea soon, Maggie suggests. Shall we? The Palm Court is yet another elegant space filled with potted palms and rattan furniture, a tropical oasis in the middle of the Atlantic. A small orchestra plays quietly in the corner as stewards move efficiently between tables with trays of tea, finger sandwiches and pastries. You settle at a table by the windows, watching the coastline of England grow more distant. The tea service is impeccable, fine bone china, sterling silver and linen so crisp it practically crackles when unfolded. To new friends and new adventures, Maggie raises her teacup in a toast. As you sip your Darjeeling and nibble on cucumber sandwiches, the conversation flows easily between observations about the ship and plans for New York. Maggie, it turns out, is returning from an extended European tour and has a wealth of stories about her travels. "Did you hear we'll be stopping at Cherbourg this evening?" she mentions. "And Queenstown tomorrow, then it's open ocean all the way to New York." "I'd almost forgotten we weren't properly at sea yet," you admit. The ship's gentle movement and incredible stability have made it easy to forget you're on a vessel at all. Time passes pleasantly in conversation, and before you know it, the light outside the windows has begun to shift toward late afternoon. You excuse yourself to return to your stateroom, where your maid has already unpacked your trunks and laid out options for dinner attire. "Not the full evening dress tonight, Emily," you tell her. "I understand the first night is more relaxed." "Very good, madam. Perhaps the navy dinner dress with the silver trim?" As Emily helps you change, you catch her up on your impressions of the ship. Even the servants' accommodations are a step above other vessels, though naturally not as luxurious as passenger cabins. Emily seems pleased with her berth, shared with only one other lady's maid, rather than the dormitory-style accommodations on lesser ships. "The stewards have been most helpful," she reports, fastening the tiny buttons running down your spine, "and the food in the servants' hall is remarkably good." Dressed for dinner, you make your way to the reception room outside the first-class dining saloon on D-deck. This elegant space serves as a gathering point before meals, allowing passengers to mingle and perhaps form dinner parties if they're travelling alone. The reception room buzzes with conversation as passengers compare notes on their staterooms and share first impressions of the ship. Through the wide entrances to the dining saloon, you can see stewards putting final touches on the tables, adjusting crystal, straightening silver, ensuring everything is perfect. "I hear they've delayed our departure from Cherbourg," someone mentions nearby. "Some issue with the tenders." Indeed, looking out the windows, you can see that the ship has slowed as it approaches the French port. Cherbourg's harbour isn't deep enough to accommodate a vessel of Titanic's size, so passengers and mail must be ferried out by smaller boats. "We won't be allowed ashore, will we?" your friend asks a passing officer. "I'm afraid not, madam," he replies. "Just a brief stop to take on passengers and mail. We should be underway again within 2 hours." A steward sounds a small gong, signalling that dinner is served. Unlike the formal announcement you'll experience on subsequent evenings, when a bugler will play "The Roast Beef of Old England," this first night is less ceremonial. You enter the first-class dining saloon, and once again Titanic's scale takes your breath away. The room is enormous, the largest space on the ship, able to seat over 500 passengers at once. White-panelled walls rise to a ceiling adorned with intricate mouldings and sparkling crystal light fixtures. The floor is covered in blue linoleum tiles arranged in elegant patterns. Your table, madam, a steward guides you to a table for 6 where you're joined by Maggie Brown and 2 other couples. Just wait until tomorrow night, Maggie tells you as you settle in. First night is always casual. Tomorrow you'll see the real display. Tiaras, family jewels and gowns straight from Paris. The dinner, despite being casual by Titanic standards, is still an elaborate affair. The menu offers multiple choices for each course: consommé, salmon, roast duckling, sirloin of beef, pâté, fresh fruit, and cheeses. Each dish is artfully presented on white star-lined china bordered in blue and gold. Throughout the meal, the atmosphere remains relaxed. Men haven't changed into full evening dress with tails, and ladies have forgone their most elaborate gowns. After all, many passengers are still settling in, and some are still boarding at Cherbourg. Through the windows, you catch glimpses of the smaller tender vessels approaching Titanic's towering hull. The SS Nomadic, specially designed to ferry first and second-class passengers, looks like a toy beside the ocean liner. I hear the Duff Gordons are boarding at Cherbourg, someone mentions, and Benjamin Guggenheim. More millionaires per square foot than Newport in August, Maggie quips, earning laughs from around the table. Conversation flows as easily as the wine, touching on everything from politics to fashion to speculation about how quickly Titanic might cross the Atlantic on her maiden voyage. Captain Smith is known for setting records, one gentleman informs the table, though I understand White Star is more concerned with comfort than speed. Unlike Cunard, his wife adds, the Mauretania and Lusitania practically shake your teeth loose getting to New York a few hours sooner. I'd rather arrive rested than rattled, you contribute, earning nods of agreement. After dinner, unlike subsequent evenings when traditions will dictate that ladies retire to the lounge while gentlemen enjoy cigars and brandy in the smoking room, the mood remains casual and mixed. Some passengers drift toward the reception room for coffee, others head to the boat deck for fresh air, and a few make their way to the smoking room regardless of convention. You choose to join a small group venturing up to the boat deck to watch as Titanic prepares to depart Cherbourg. The night air is cool but pleasant, and the French coast glitters with lights. The last of the tenders pulls away from the ship, now carrying departing visitors back to shore. With new passengers aboard, Titanic sounds her whistle, that same deep, resonant call that vibrates in your chest. Slowly, the massive vessel begins to move again, turning toward the open sea. Next stop Queenstown, someone nearby says. Then nothing but ocean for days. The thought sends an unexpected shiver down your spine. While Titanic feels as solid as any building on land, there's something humbling about the vast darkness of the sea surrounding you. From your vantage point high on the boat deck, the water seems very far below, black and mysterious in the night. A steward passes with a tray of hot chocolate, and you gratefully accept a cup, wrapping your fingers around its warmth. The rich, sweet scent rises with the steam, momentarily displacing the salt air. Some passengers have begun to drift inside, finding the wind too brisk, now that the ship is gaining speed. Others linger at the rails, watching Cherbourg's lights grow smaller until they merge with the distant shoreline and finally disappear altogether. "I think I'll turn in," your friend says with a small yawn. "It's been quite a day." You nod in agreement. The excitement of boarding, exploring the ship and meeting new acquaintances has left you pleasantly exhausted. Besides, tomorrow promises more discoveries. The gymnasium, perhaps the Turkish baths, and certainly more acquaintances to be made. Making your way back to your stateroom, you find Emily has already turned down the bed and laid out your nightclothes. The electric heater has taken the chill from the air, making the cabin wonderfully cozy. "Will there be anything else, madam?" she asks. "No, thank you, Emily. You may retire." Left alone, you move to the small porthole in your cabin and gaze out at the dark sea. The slight vibration of the engines creates a gentle, almost soothing hum. Combined with the subtle movement of the ship, it's surprisingly relaxing. As you prepare for bed, you reflect on this first day aboard the Titanic. The ship has already exceeded your expectations, not just in its luxury and scale, but in the sense of possibility it creates. For this 1 week, you exist in a world apart, a floating microcosm of Edwardian high society where every comfort is anticipated and provided. You slip between the crisp linen sheets, your body sinking into the comfortable mattress. The gentle rhythm of the ship lulls you towards sleep, even as your mind still buzzes with impressions of the day. The gleaming grand staircase, the palatial public rooms, the interesting characters you've met. Tomorrow will bring Queenstown, Ireland, and then the true Atlantic crossing begins. 6 days of steaming toward New York with nothing but Titanic's considerable amusements to occupy you. The thought brings a smile to your lips as you drift towards sleep, rocked by the gentle movement of the greatest ship in the world. Outside your window, the vast Atlantic stretches dark and endless as Titanic, lights blazing from hundreds of portholes, steams confidently westward, her 4 massive funnels silhouetted against the night sky. Morning comes with a gentle knock at your door. For a disorienting moment, you forget where you are until the subtle movement of the ship beneath you brings reality rushing back. You're aboard the Titanic, now fully at sea after yesterday's final stop at Queenstown, Ireland. "Good morning, madam," Emily says quietly, entering with a small tray. "I've brought your morning tea." The aroma of fresh Earl Grey fills the stateroom as Emily sets the tray on the bedside table and moves to open the curtains. Soft morning light spills through the porthole, dancing across the Louis XVI furnishings of your cabin. "What time is it?" you ask, sitting up against the plush pillows. "Just after 7, madam. We're at sea properly now. Left Ireland behind last night." You accept the delicate china cup, the tea perfectly brewed with just a splash of milk. Emily busies herself laying out your morning clothes while you sip and slowly wake. "The steward says it's quite fine out today," she reports, "though a bit brisk on deck. I've laid out your wool walking suit and the cashmere scarf." "Thank you, Emily. And what's the plan for today?" "The Atlantic Daily Bulletin is here," she says, handing you a single sheet of paper. It lists today's activities and some news from the wireless. The ship's daily newspaper, typed up by the wireless operators overnight, provides an essential link to the shore, even while at sea. Weather reports, stock prices, major news headlines, and even information on the ship's progress, all delivered to your cabin with your morning tea. Technology truly is remarkable. You scan the paper, noting a few items of interest. The ship made good progress overnight, the weather forecast is promising, and there's a concert scheduled in the first-class lounge this afternoon. After finishing your tea, you rise and prepare for the day with Emily's assistance. The morning ritual is familiar, washing at the marble-topped basin with hot water delivered by a steward, then dressing in layers starting with your combination undergarments, corset, looser for day wear, petticoats, and finally your walking suit. "I thought I might try the gymnasium this morning," you mention as Emily pins your hair. "Very good, madam. Shall I have your swimming costume ready for afterward? I hear the pool is quite marvellous." The thought of a swim in the ship's heated pool is appealing after what will surely be a bracing walk on deck. You nod your agreement as Emily secures your hat with a final pin. Properly attired, you step out into the corridor. The ship feels alive with morning activity. Stewards hurrying with breakfast trays for those taking meals in their cabins, passengers emerging for early walks or heading to the dining saloon. You make your way to the first-class smoking room, where gentlemen are already gathering to read newspapers and discuss business. While traditionally a male domain, no one prevents you from entering to collect your own copy of the Atlantic Daily Bulletin. Inside, the room is rich with the scent of polished wood, leather, and the first cigars of the day. Designed in the style of an English gentleman's club, the smoking room features mahogany panelling, deep leather chairs, stained glass windows, and card tables where fortunes will likely change hands before the voyage ends. Several men glance up as you enter, a few nodding politely. One, an older gentleman with an impressive white moustache, actually rises from his seat. "Good morning, madam. May I be of assistance?" "I was just collecting a bulletin," you explain, gesturing to the stack on a side table. "Allow me," he says, retrieving one for you. "Colonel Archibald Gracie, at your service." You introduce yourself, and the colonel insists on pointing out items of interest in the bulletin, particularly the ship's progress overnight. 24 knots, steady as you please, he says with obvious admiration. White Star may prioritize comfort over speed, but Titanic's still making excellent time. Captain Smith knows his business. After thanking the colonel for his courtesy, you exit with your bulletin and make your way toward the dining saloon. The grand staircase is already busy with passengers descending for breakfast, the great glass dome above flooding the space with morning light. The dining saloon doors stand open, stewards positioned on either side to welcome passengers. Inside, the vast room gleams with morning sunshine streaming through the large windows. Tables are immaculately set with white linens, silver, and the distinctive blue and gold-rimmed White Star Line china. "Good morning, madam," the head steward greets you. "Your table from last evening, or would you prefer to join others?" "My usual table, please." He leads you to a table by the windows where, to your delight, Maggie Brown is already seated, along with another couple you met last night. "There you are," Maggie calls cheerfully. "I was just telling the bishops about my plans to try the Turkish bath later. Care to join me?" You settle into your chair as a steward unfolds a napkin across your lap and another appears instantly with coffee. "I was thinking of visiting the gymnasium first," you reply. "Perhaps the baths afterward." "Excellent plan. I hear the electric camel is quite the experience." Maggie's eyes twinkle with mischief, though what it has to do with proper exercise I couldn't say. A steward appears at your elbow with breakfast menus, though they're hardly necessary. The first-class breakfast spread is legendary. Everything from simple porridge to elaborate egg dishes, fish, meat, pastries, and fruit. "What looks good this morning?" you ask, scanning the extensive options. "The grilled mutton chops are excellent," Mr. Bishop offers, "and they do a very good omelette." You finally decide on oatmeal with cream, followed by smoked salmon and poached eggs. As you place your order, you can't help but marvel at the logistics required to serve such varied and fresh food in the middle of the ocean. "I heard they've got 40,000 eggs in cold storage," Maggie says, seemingly reading your thoughts, "and enough fresh meat to feed an army. The kitchen is something to behold, like a small city down there. "Have you seen it?" Mrs. Bishop asks, surprised. "I make it my business to see everything," Maggie replies with a wink. "Slipped the head chef a little something, and he was happy to show me around. 40 chefs and cooks working in organised chaos. Quite the operation." Your breakfast arrives promptly. The oatmeal steaming in a silver-rimmed bowl, the salmon artfully arranged beside perfectly poached eggs. The first bite confirms that the quality matches the presentation. The dining saloon fills gradually as morning progresses, the gentle murmur of conversation and clink of silverware creating a pleasant backdrop. Through the windows you can see the ocean stretching to the horizon, surprisingly calm today with just a gentle swell that causes the slightest rocking motion. "I heard the Astors finally emerged from their suite," Mrs. Bishop says quietly, leaning in. "Apparently they took all their meals privately yesterday." "Well, they are on their honeymoon," Maggie points out, "and with all the gossip about their age difference, I don't blame them for wanting privacy." The Astors' marriage had indeed been scandalous. John Jacob Astor IV, at 47, had divorced his first wife to marry 18-year-old Madeleine. They'd been travelling in Egypt and Paris, hoping the gossip would die down before returning to New York. "They say his suite has a private promenade deck," Mr. Bishop adds. "Probably hasn't felt the need to emerge." You finish your breakfast as the conversation flows around you, touching on fellow passengers, upcoming shipboard activities and predictions about the Atlantic weather. "Well, I'm off to the gymnasium," you announce, dabbing your lips with your napkin. "Anyone care to join me?" Maggie agrees enthusiastically, while the bishops decline in favour of a morning constitutional around the boat deck. You and Maggie make your way up to the boat deck, where the gymnasium is located just aft of the officers' quarters. The morning air is bracingly fresh when you step outside, the wind carrying the scent of salt spray. "Now this is proper sea air," Maggie exclaims, taking a deep breath. "Makes you feel alive, doesn't it?" The deck is already busy with early walkers getting their exercise, some power striding with serious expressions, others strolling leisurely while chatting. A few hardy souls have claimed deck chairs despite the cool morning, bundled in blankets while they read or simply gaze at the ocean. The gymnasium door stands open, and inside you find several passengers already using the equipment under the watchful eye of the physical educator, Mr. Macaulay, a fit young man in impeccable white flannels. "Good morning, ladies," he greets you cheerfully. "First time in our gymnasium, you'll need tickets, 1 shilling each, available at the purser's office." Maggie produces 2 tickets from her handbag with a flourish. "Already handled. Now show us these famous electric beasts of yours." The gymnasium is a bright, modern space with white oak panelling and large windows offering views of the passing ocean. The equipment ranges from familiar to utterly foreign. Dumbbells and Indian clubs, rowing machines, stationary bicycles, a peculiar contraption for back and stomach massage, and of course the infamous electric camel and horse. The electric horse simulates a trot or canter, Macaulay explains, demonstrating the strange device which rocks back and forth with mechanical precision. Excellent for the digestion and posture, very popular with the gentlemen. "And the camel?" you inquire, eyeing the bizarre contraption sceptically. "Similar principle, but with a different motion. More of a camel's gait. The ladies find it most beneficial for the waistline." You exchange a glance with Maggie, both of you struggling to maintain proper decorum. "I believe I'll try it," Maggie announces boldly. "When else will I ride a camel without the sand and heat?" While Maggie mounts the electric beast with surprising grace, you opt for one of the stationary bicycles. Macaulay shows you how to adjust the resistance and operate the meter that tracks your theoretical distance travelled. "We have some ladies who race each other," he mentions. "Mrs. Candy and Mrs. Dodge have quite the rivalry going, 10 miles yesterday before luncheon." As you pedal, watching the meter tick upward, you observe your fellow passengers, a mix of ages and body types, all earnestly working up a light sweat in their exercise attire. Women wear practical divided skirts or loose gym wear, while men sport loose flannel trousers and light shirts, far from the formal attire seen throughout the rest of the ship. "This camel is nothing like the real thing," Maggie calls over, bouncing rhythmically. "Far too smooth. Real camels are dreadful, jerky creatures. This is more like I don't know what. Perhaps that's why it's popular," you suggest. "All the prestige of saying you've ridden the camel with none of the discomfort." After 20 minutes of steady pedalling, you've worked up a healthy glow. Macaulay appears with a cup of water for both you and Maggie, who has now moved on to the rowing machine. "Most ladies take a turn on the mechanical horse before finishing," he suggests. "Excellent for posture." You decide to try it, if only for the novelty. The mechanical horse rocks methodically beneath you, nothing like a real horse's movement, but oddly soothing nonetheless. You can see why it's popular, especially for passengers unaccustomed to physical activity. Do many women use the gymnasium? You ask Macaulay as you dismount. "Oh yes, quite a good number. Ladies' hours are 10 till 1, and we're usually busy. The electric camel is quite the draw." He lowers his voice slightly. "Between us, I think some come just to say they've tried it, a conversation piece for dinner parties back home." After thanking Macaulay for his attention, you and Maggie depart, pleasantly exercised and ready for your next activity. "Turkish baths," Maggie suggests. "Ladies' hours start at 2, but we could reserve spots now." "Let's do that, and perhaps visit the swimming bath in between. I hear it's quite remarkable." You make your way back inside and down the main companionway to F deck, where both the swimming bath and Turkish baths are located. The ship seems to go on forever, deck after deck, connected by elegant staircases and electric elevators that make navigation surprisingly easy despite Titanic's vast size. The swimming bath attendant is pleased to take your reservation, explaining that the pool is currently in use by gentlemen, but will be available to ladies at 11 o'clock. "The water is kept at a comfortable temperature, madam," he assures you. "Heated salt water, very buoyant. Towels and swimming costumes are available if needed." From there you continue to the Turkish bath entrance, where another attendant books your afternoon appointment. "I'll put you down for 2 o'clock, ladies. That's $1 each. The cooling room is particularly fine, done up in the Moorish style with blue tiles and teak furniture. Many ladies come just to sit there after using the steam room. With your afternoon plans arranged, you and Maggie decide to part ways temporarily. She wishes to write letters before lunch, while you're inclined to explore more of the ship. "Meet you at the swimming bath at 11, she suggests. "Perfect. I think I'll take a turn around the boat deck first." As you part ways, you realize how quickly shipboard acquaintances develop into something resembling friendship. The closed environment of the ship, combined with shared experiences, creates a unique social atmosphere where traditional introduction protocols relax somewhat. Back on the boat deck, the morning sun has warmed the air considerably. More passengers have emerged for their daily constitutional, the unwritten rule being at least 10 circuits of the deck for proper exercise. You join the slow parade of walkers, falling into the established counterclockwise flow. The deck is wide enough for pairs to walk comfortably side by side, allowing for conversation. Occasionally, someone stops at the railing to gaze out at the endless blue or point out a distant ship on the horizon. "Beautiful morning," comments an elderly gentleman as he passes you for the second time, clearly maintaining a faster pace. "Indeed it is," you reply, smiling at his determined stride. Looking out at the ocean, you're struck by the curious sense of isolation. Despite being surrounded by hundreds of fellow passengers and crew, Titanic feels like a world unto itself, a floating island of Edwardian luxury in the middle of the vast Atlantic. The sun glints off the waves, creating a dazzling display of light. The air tastes of salt and possibility. For this brief interlude between Southampton and New York, normal life is suspended. No obligations beyond deciding which of the ship's pleasures to indulge in next. As you complete your third circuit of the deck, you notice a small group gathered at the starboard rail, pointing at something in the distance. Curious, you join them. Dolphins, a young girl explains excitedly, pointing. A whole pod of them. Sure enough, sleek grey forms leap and play in the ship's wake, seemingly racing the massive vessel. Their joyful acrobatics bring smiles to even the most reserved passengers. You linger at the rail, watching the natural spectacle and enjoying the fresh air. Time seems to slow, marked only by the steady thrum of the engines far below and the rhythmic splash of waves against the hull. This is the magic of an Atlantic crossing. These moments of unexpected delight, the luxury of time stretching before you, and the curious blend of freedom and containment that only exists at sea. As the ship's clock chimes 11 bells, you remember your swimming appointment with Maggie. With one last look at the playful dolphins, you turn back toward the interior of the ship, ready for your next adventure aboard the floating palace that is RMS Titanic. You make your way down to F deck, where both the swimming bath and Turkish baths are located. The deeper you go into the ship, the more noticeable the engine vibration becomes, a gentle, steady hum that reminds you you're on a moving vessel, despite all evidence to the contrary in the luxurious upper decks. The swimming bath attendant greets you with a crisp bow. "Good morning, madam. Your friend Mrs. Brown has already arrived and is changing. Would you care to use one of our swimming costumes, or have you brought your own?" You've brought your own. A navy wool affair with white trim that's far more practical than fashionable. Not that fashion matters much in a ladies-only swimming hour. The changing room is small but elegant, with wooden lockers and benches. Maggie is just emerging in her own swimming costume, a rather daring red and black striped number that would raise eyebrows on any beach in America. "There you are," she exclaims. "I was beginning to think you'd gotten lost. This ship is a proper maze, isn't it?" "Dolphins," you explain. "On the starboard side. I lost track of time watching them." "Well, you haven't missed anything. I've just peeked at the pool. It's marvellous. Actual swimming. On a ship. What will they think of next?" After changing, you follow Maggie through another door into the pool area proper. The swimming bath is a rectangular pool, 30 feet long by 14 feet wide, surrounded by a tiled deck. Electric lights illuminate the space, supplementing the natural light from small portholes high on one wall. The most remarkable thing is the water itself, perfectly still despite the motion of the ship. Some clever engineering feat prevents the water from sloshing with the vessel's movement, making actual swimming possible. How do they manage that, you wonder aloud? "Baffles," replies a woman already swimming. She pauses at the pool's edge, pushing wet hair from her forehead. "My husband's in shipbuilding. Says they've installed baffles beneath the surface that break up the wave motion. Same principle they use to stabilize the ship itself, just adapted for the pool." You thank her for the explanation and gingerly test the water with your toes. It's pleasantly warm, heated salt water that feels somehow silkier than fresh water. "Oh, just get in already," Maggie laughs, stepping past you and descending the small ladder into the deeper end. She submerges herself completely, emerging with a delighted gasp. Divine, absolutely divine. You follow more cautiously, adapting to the curious sensation of swimming in a contained body of water that itself is moving across the ocean. The salt water's buoyancy makes floating effortless. You close your eyes for a moment, suspended in the warm water, and experience a curious sensation of timelessness, as if you're floating in some liminal space between worlds. "Race you," Maggie challenges, breaking your reverie. For the next half hour, you and the other women enjoy the unique pleasure of swimming in the middle of the Atlantic. Some do laps with serious determination, others simply float and chat. One young woman demonstrates an impressive dive from the pool's edge, earning spontaneous applause. "That's enough exercise for one morning," Maggie eventually declares, hauling herself out via the ladder. "I've worked up quite an appetite. Luncheon next, I think, before our appointment at the baths." You agree, and after changing back into your day clothes, make your way up to the dining saloon. First-class luncheon is served from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m, less formal than dinner, but still an elegant affair with multiple courses and impeccable service. The dining saloon is about half full when you arrive, many passengers preferring a lighter lunch at the Café Parisien or Veranda Café on days with fine weather. You and Maggie are shown to a table by the windows, giving you a splendid view of the ocean rushing past. "Quite a morning we've had," Maggie remarks, unfolding her napkin. "Electric camels and salt water swimming. My friends back in Denver would never believe it." "Mine either," you agree, "though I'm saving the Turkish baths for my most detailed letters home. I can already hear my mother's scandalized reaction." A steward appears with menus, reciting the day's specials with practiced precision. The luncheon options are extensive. Several soups, fish dishes, cold buffet items, grilled meats, and an array of desserts and cheeses. "The consommé Olga is particularly good today," he recommends, "and the chicken à la Maryland is a specialty of our chef." You opt for the consommé, followed by the chicken, while Maggie chooses cockle leaky soup and mutton chops from the grill. The steward nods approvingly at your selections and disappears to place your order. "I met the most interesting gentleman this morning," Maggie shares once the steward is out of earshot. "Thomas Andrews, the shipbuilder himself. He was inspecting something near the grand staircase, making notes in a little book, very particular about every detail." "What was he like?" "Surprisingly modest for a man who created all this." Maggie gestures expansively at your surroundings. "He asked if I was enjoying the voyage and whether I'd noticed any improvements that could be made. Can you imagine? As if I would have the first idea about ship design." "What did you tell him?" "That the ship is magnificent, but the electric camel is ridiculous." She laughs. "He actually wrote it down in his notebook, said he'd been skeptical about including it, but was overruled by the White Star directors." Your consommé arrives, a clear, rich broth served in a delicate china cup. The first sip reveals layers of flavor that speak to hours of careful preparation. Not for the first time, you marvel at the logistics required to serve such refined cuisine in the middle of the ocean. "Did you know," Maggie says between spoonfuls of her soup, "they loaded 75,000 pounds of meat aboard and 40,000 eggs? The cold storage rooms take up half a deck below stairs." "How do you know all this?" "I ask questions," she says with a wink. "People love to talk about their work if you show genuine interest. The head steward gave me quite the tour yesterday while everyone else was at tea." Your main courses arrive, your chicken Maryland golden and crisp, served with a creamy white gravy, while Maggie's mutton chops are perfectly grilled with a side of mint sauce. The presentation is as elegant as the food is delicious, each plate a work of culinary art. As you eat, your conversation turns to fellow passengers. The Titanic's first-class list reads like a social register. Astors, Guggenheims, Wideners, Strausses, the cream of American and European society. Half the millionaires in America must be aboard, you observe, cutting into your chicken. Not quite half, Maggie says with a smile, but certainly enough wealth to fund a small country. John Jacob Astor alone is worth what? 100 million? I can't even imagine such a fortune. The Astors have been the subject of much discreet observation and gossip. After his scandalous divorce and remarriage to a woman 29 years his junior, their presence on the Titanic has provided endless material for shipboard conversation. I saw Mrs. Astor in the library yesterday, you mention. She's much younger than I expected, barely out of the schoolroom. And expecting, Maggie adds in a hushed tone, though it's not widely known yet. That's why they're returning to America, so the child can be born on American soil. Your eyebrows rise in surprise. How do you know that? Her maid and my maid have become friendly. The servants always know everything first. The remainder of lunch passes pleasantly, concluding with a dessert of apple meringue and a selection of cheeses. By the time you finish, it's approaching 2 o'clock, time for your Turkish bath appointment. Shall we? Maggie suggests, dabbing her lips one final time before setting aside her napkin. You make your way back down to F deck, where the Turkish bath attendant greets you with a bow. Mrs. Brown, madam, welcome. Your baths are prepared, if you'll follow me. The Turkish bath suite is a series of connected rooms, each maintained at a different temperature. You start in the temperate room where you're given plush towels and directed to changing cubicles. The recommended progression is temperate room, cooling room, hot room, steam room, and then back to cooling room, the attendant explains. Some ladies prefer to skip the hottest rooms. It's entirely at your discretion. The massage and shampooing rooms are available for an additional charge. Changed into the provided linen wraps, you and Maggie enter the cooling room and stop in your tracks. Good heavens, you breathe. The cooling room is nothing short of magical, decorated in an elaborate Moorish style with blue-green tiles covering the walls, intricately carved teak woodwork and bronze lamps hanging from a deeply recessed crimson ceiling. The effect is of stepping not just off the ship, but into another world entirely, a sultan's palace from Arabian Nights. Around the perimeter are comfortable teak lounge chairs with plump cushions, small tables inlaid with mother-of-pearl, and a marble drinking fountain in one corner. Several other women already recline in various states of relaxation, some reading, others with eyes closed in apparent bliss. I told you it was spectacular, Maggie whispers. Worth the $1 admission just for this room alone. You settle into adjacent lounges, taking in the exotic atmosphere. The air is warm but not uncomfortable, fragrant with some unidentifiable spice. I believe I'll stay right here while you brave the hotter rooms, Maggie decides, arranging her towels. Heat and I have never been friends. You, however, are curious about the full experience. After a suitable rest in the cooling room, you proceed to the hot room, a simpler space with wooden benches and a noticeably higher temperature. The few women present speak in hushed tones, creating an atmosphere of reverent relaxation. Next comes the steam room, where the heat and humidity are almost overwhelming. You last only 5 minutes before retreating, your skin flushed and pores thoroughly opened. The return to the cooling room feels blissful after such intense heat. You sink onto your lounger, accepting a glass of cold water from an attendant. You look properly steamed, Maggie observes with amusement. Like a Christmas pudding. It's more intense than I expected, you admit. But I feel lighter somehow. It's all the toxins leaving your body, explains a woman nearby. The Turks have known the health benefits for centuries, clears the mind and purifies the system. Whether it's ancient wisdom or modern marketing, you can't deny the pleasant lassitude spreading through your limbs. The unique combination of exercise and heat has left you feeling simultaneously energized and relaxed, a curious but not unpleasant sensation. You spend the next hour in the cooling room, occasionally sipping water and engaging in quiet conversation with Maggie and the other women. The topics are typical ladies' fare, fashion, society gossip, comparisons of various European spas, but the setting lends an exotic flavour to even the most mundane discussions. "We should probably think about dressing for tea," Maggie eventually suggests, checking the small clock on the wall. The orchestra plays in the lounge at 4, and they're quite good. Reluctantly, you leave the Arabian fantasy of the Turkish baths and return to the reality of the ship. Though reality aboard Titanic is itself a form of fantasy, you reflect. Every experience is curated, every comfort anticipated, every detail perfected to create a seamless world of luxury. After changing back into your day clothes, you and Maggie make your way to the reading and writing room on a deck, a space primarily designed for ladies to write letters, read, or engage in quiet conversation. The room is decorated in Georgian style, with comfortable armchairs, writing desks equipped with Titanic stationery, and large windows overlooking the boat deck and sea beyond. "I should write to my children before tea," Maggie says, settling at a desk. "Care to join me? You could tell your mother all about the scandalous Turkish baths." You smile at the suggestion, but take a seat at an adjacent desk. There is something special about correspondence written at sea. The letterhead alone a souvenir of the voyage. You select a sheet of white star-line stationery embossed with the company logo and RMS Titanic in elegant script. "Dearest Mother," you begin, your pen gliding across the heavy paper. "You won't believe where I am writing this from." For the next half hour, you compose a detailed account of your voyage thus far, the magnificence of the ship, the interesting people you've met, the unusual experiences like the electric camel and swimming bath. You deliberately omit specific names and gossipy details, knowing your mother's penchant for sharing correspondence with her friends. As you finish your letter, sealing it in an envelope to be posted upon arrival in New York, you notice the light outside the windows beginning to soften. The afternoon is advancing, the day's activities gradually transitioning toward evening. "Tea?" Maggie suggests, having completed her own letters. You nod, gathering your belongings. Another meal awaits, less formal than luncheon, but no less elegant. Afternoon tea aboard Titanic is a refined affair, with delicate sandwiches, scones, pastries, and of course, properly brewed tea served in fine bone china. As you follow Maggie toward the Palm Court where tea is served, you reflect on the curious nature of life at sea, this constant procession from one meal to the next, one activity to another, all while moving steadily across the vast Atlantic. There's a dreamlike quality to the experience, a suspension of normal time and constraints. The Palm Court awaits, with its potted palms, wicker furniture, and the gentle strains of the orchestra playing Tchaikovsky. Another chapter in your Titanic day is about to unfold, each hour bringing new pleasures in this floating world of Edwardian splendour. The Palm Court is already busy when you arrive, the gentle notes of a string quartet floating above the murmur of conversation. Afternoon tea aboard Titanic is no casual affair. It's a social ritual observed with all the proper ceremony. Ladies in afternoon dresses and gentlemen in lounge suits gather at small tables while stewards in white gloves move efficiently between them carrying silver trays. "Mrs. Brown, over here," calls a voice. It's Mrs. Bishop from breakfast, waving you and Maggie toward a table near the windows where she sits with two other women you haven't yet met. We've saved seats, she explains as you approach. Everyone wants a window table for tea. Introductions are made. The newcomers are Mrs. Carter and her daughter Lucille, both travelling to Philadelphia after a shopping expedition to Paris. Lucille, barely 20, is wide-eyed with excitement about everything aboard Titanic, from the Turkish baths, which her mother deemed inappropriate, to the wireless room where she sent messages to friends back home. $3 for 3 words, she says with a laugh. Father will have a fit when he sees the bill, but how could I not send a wireless from the Titanic? A steward appears at your table, laying out crisp white napkins with practiced efficiency. Tea for 5, ladies. The Darjeeling is particularly good today. You settle on Darjeeling, and within minutes an elaborate tea service appears. A silver teapot, delicate cups and saucers in the white star line pattern, tiny silver tongs for sugar, and strainers for the loose tea. A 3-tiered serving stand follows, laden with finger sandwiches, cucumber, egg and cress, smoked salmon, freshly baked scones with clotted cream and strawberry jam, and an assortment of pastries that would make a Parisian patisserie proud. I'll pour, Mrs. Bishop offers, taking command of the teapot with the confidence of someone who has presided over countless afternoon teas. Milk? Sugar? The ritual of afternoon tea creates an immediate bond between women who were strangers moments before. Conversation flows as easily as the tea, covering the usual topics. The ship itself, magnificent. The crossing so far, remarkably smooth. Fellow passengers, have you seen the Astors? And plans for arrival in New York. We must be making good time, Mrs. Carter observes, glancing out the window at the passing ocean. Captain Smith